Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, honorable lecturer. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my final project. My name is Meygita Dian Utami, student ID number 242200130. Today, I would like to present a learning document that I have developed, namely the lesson plan, RPP, and the lesson unit from grade 6 elementary school under the topic The Fun Games. I will begin by presenting the lesson plan because it serves the instructional blueprint of the learning process. After that, I will continue with the lesson unit, which was developed based off this lesson plan. Okay. This is the cover page of my lesson plan entitled The Fun Games. This lesson plan is designed for grade 6 elementary school, semester 1, with the main focus on action verbs, imperative sentence, and traditional games. Before designing the learning activities, I first determined the learning model, teaching approach, learning media, and assessment strategies that best support the intended learning outcomes. For these lessons, I selected project-based learning as the learning model because students are expected to produce an authentic learning product at the end of the lesson. I also adopted the communicative language teaching approach, which encourage students to use English actively through meaningful communication rather than memorizing language rules. To support the learning process, I integrated several ICT tools, including WordWall, Quizlet, Wheel of Names, Confine, CapCut, alongside concrete learning media such as traditional game equipment. The second page presents the table of contents. As we can see, the lesson plan is organized into several major sections, beginning with curriculum analysis and ending with assessment and references. Each section is interconnected and contributes to the overall instructional design. In the following presentation, I will explain each part and the rationale behind its development. Okay. Next. The first major section is the curriculum analysis. I believe that effective lesson planning should always begin with curriculum alignment. Therefore, before develop any learning activities, I first analyze the learning outcomes for Phase C in the Merdeka curriculum. From this analysis, I identified 4 important competencies. Students are expected to develop listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills while simultaneously strengthening character values such as cooperation, creativity, responsibility, and sportsmanship. After identifying these competencies, I developed the Alur Tujuan Pembelajaran or ATP as the learning sequence. Rather than introducing all concepts simultaneously, I arranged the lesson progressively. Students begin by learning action verbs, continue with imperative sentence and connective words, practice dialogue and game procedures, and finally create a digital learning product. This gradual progression helps students move from understanding language forms toward applying English in authentic communication. Okay. Next is learning objective. The next section presents the learning objective. These objectives were formulated using the ABCD model, consisting of audience, behavior, conditions, and degree because it provides clear, observable, and measurable learning outcomes. The objectives are organized into 3 main dimensions. First, linguistic competence. Where students identify the correctly used action verbs and imperative sentences. And second, communicative competence. where students participate in dialogues and explain games procedures using appropriate connective words. And finally, creative and digital competence, where students participate in dialogue and explain games procedures using appropriate connective words. And finally, creative and digital competence, where um, students collaborate to create either a Canva poster or a CapCut instructional video. The objectives are also sequenced according to Bloom taxonomy, allowing students to progress from lower order thinking skill towards higher order thinking skills through meaningful learning experience. Okay, next, learning model and approach. Page explain the instructional framework used in this lesson plan. I selected project-based learning because the final outcomes of this lesson is not simply students' understanding of grammar, but their ability to apply English while producing an authentic project. Through this model, students collaborate, solve problems, and create meaningful learning product. At the same time, I adopted the communicative language teaching approach because language learning should prioritize communication. Instead of learning grammar in isolation, students use English throughout the lesson while participating in discussions, dialogues, games, and collaborative activity. As a result, grammar becomes a functional tool for communication rather than merely a set of rules to memorize. Okay, next is learning activity. The next three pages describe the learning procedures. The lesson is divided into three phases: opening activity, and core activity, and closing activity. The opening phase is designed to build students' motivation through greetings, classroom interaction, and energizer, and an essential question related to traditional games. Okay, the core activities consist of four instructional strategies. Stages. The first stage is building knowledge, where students learn action verbs using the action bank supported by Wordwall and Quizlet. The second stage is modeling of text, where students analyze and perform the dialogue entitled The Festival Challenge while learning how action verbs and imperative sentence are used in authentic communication. The third is joint construction, where students participate in the mystery box game and collaboratively construct English sentences. The fourth stage is independent construction, where students rotate through three station games: Marble Spoon Race, Limbo Rock, and Dragon Tail. During this stage, students not only practice English while playing, but also record short video clips that will later become part of their final project. Finally, during the closing phase, students summarize the lessons, complete self-reflection, and receive instruction for their project assignment. Okay, that's overall, the learning activities are arranged from teacher guidance toward independent language production, allowing students to gradually build confidence in using English. Yeah, this. Okay, next is students worksheet or LKPD. The following section presents the student worksheet or LKPD. The worksheet is designed as an integral part of the learning process rather than as a separate exercise. Each activity in the LKPD corresponds directly to one stage of the lesson plan. Students complete vocabulary exercise, dialogue comprehensions, mystery box activity, imperative sentence practice, self-reflection, and finally the project task. Through this structure, the LKPD documents students' learning process while simultaneously supporting formative assessment throughout the lessons. Okay, this. Nah, next, ICT instructional media. One distinctive feature of this lesson plan is the integration of ICT. Rather than using technology simply for presentation purposes, each digital application serves a specific pedagogical function. Word wall is used to reinforce vocabulary through interactive games. Quizlet support independent vocabulary learning beyond the classroom. Wheel of Names promotes pair student participation during classroom activity. Meanwhile, Canva and CapCut enable students to create authentic digital product while developing creativity and digital literacy. In my opinion, ICT integration should always enhance learning quality instead of merely making the lesson appear more modern. Next, assessment. The next session explains this assessment system. I designed the assessment to evaluate both the learning process and the final learning product. For this reason, I combine formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment is conducted continuously through classroom observation, word wall activity, dialogue performance, worksheet completion, the mystery box game, and student self-reflection. This assessment allows the teacher to monitor students' progress and provide immediate feedback whenever necessary. Meanwhile, the summative assessment evaluates the student's final project using five criteria: action verbs, imperative sentence, connective words, visual presentation, and English accuracy. To ensure that all students receive appropriate learning opportunity, I enrichment activity. Students will require additional support receives guided practice, while advanced students are encouraged to explore traditional games from different regions and present them creatively in English. Okay, next is next is references. The final page contains the references used in developing these lesson plans. The references consist of curriculum documents, English language, teaching books, journal articles, and digital learning resources that provide the theoretical and pedagogical foundation for this instructional design. All references are written using EPA 7th edition. Okay. That concludes my presentation of the lesson plan. As I have explained it, the lesson plan functions as the instructional blueprint that guides the teaching and learning process. Based on this instructional design, I then developed the lesson unit, which serves as the main teaching material used by both teachers and students during classroom implementation. In the next part of my presentation, I will explain how the lesson unit translates the lesson plan into practical learning materials, classroom activity, and student exercise. Okay, this, yeah. As I explained it in the previous presentation, the lesson plan functions as the instructional blueprint that guides the teaching and learning process, right? Based on the lesson plan, I then developed this lesson unit as the main learning material that students use during the lessons. In other words, if the lesson plan explains how the lesson should be conducted, the lesson unit provides the actual learning researches, activities, and exercise that support the implementation of the plan. Okay, now I would like to explain each section of the lesson units. Okay, talk about cover. This is the cover page of my lesson unit entitled English Fun. Chapter 4, the fun games. The design used colorful illustration and playful visual elements because the target learners are sixth grade elementary school students. Rather than creating a formal textbook appearance, I wanted the cover to immediately attract students' attention and build their curiosity before they begin learning. The title also reflects the main idea of the chapter, which is learning English through enjoyable traditional games. Okay, next. Yeah. Okay, next is table of contents. Yeah. I intentionally placed the learning objective at the beginning of the lesson unit so that students understand what they are expected to achieve before starting the lesson. There are six learning goals in the chapter. Students will learn action verbs, imperative sentence, connective words, dialogue skills, procedural speaking, and finally complete a digital project. These learning goals are directly aligned with the objective presented in the lesson plan, ensuring consistently between instructional planning and teaching materials. Okay, section one. Yes, this. Section one is the first learning section is called Action Bank. This this section introduces six action verbs, namely balance, lean, grip, toss, slide, and crawl. Instead of presenting vocabulary as isolated word lists, every verb is accompanied by its meaning, an illustration, and an example sentence. This helps students understand vocabulary in context rather than relying only on memorization. After learning the vocabulary, students continue with the grammar component, which focus on imperative sentences. I selected this grammar topic because game instruction naturally use commands such as balance the marble carefully or don't run too fast. Yeah. Students also learn connective words such as first, second, then, and finally because these expressions are essential when explaining procedures. To reinforce their understanding, this section ends with a quick practice activity that allows students to immediately apply what they have learned. Okay, next. The first challenge. Oh, the festival challenge. I'm sorry. The next section is entitled the festival challenge. Okay. Yes, this. This section introduced a dialogue between two students discussing traditional games. The dialogue provides authentic example of vocabulary and grammar that were introduced in the previous sections. Instead of learning grammar separately, students observe how action verbs, imperative sentence, and connective words are naturally used in conversation. After reading the dialogue, students answer comprehension question to check their understanding. Finally, students complete the your turn. Yeah, the your turn activity where they work with a partner to create and perform their own dialogue. Yes, this activity encourages communicative learning because students actively use English in meaningful interaction, right? Yeah. Okay, next. Next is, okay, interaction cards. The following section contains the interaction cards. There are three cards representing three traditional games: marble spoon, marble spoon race, limbo rock, and dragon tail. Each card explain the rules of the game using short imperative sentences. Besides introducing procedures, the card also reinforce important vocabulary related to each game. I designed these cards so they can be used not only as reading material but also as instructional media during classroom activity. Yes, teachers may print, laminate, or display them while students participate in the games. Therefore, these cards serve both instructional and practice purpose. Yeah, this marble spoon race, limbo rock, and dragon tail. Okay. And then section 4 is mystery box game. The next activity is the mystery box game. This section transforms vocabulary practice into an interactive speaking activity. Students choose an object from the mystery box and perform it through pantomime, while other students guess the game using complete English sentences. To support students speaking confidence, I also provide sentence starters that guide informing grammatically correct responses. This activity encourages students to communicate spontaneously while applying the vocabulary and grammar they have already learned. Yeah, it is. Mystery box. Now, okay, section 5. The next section contains the exercise. The activities are organized progressively from simple recognition tasks to predictive language use. Students complete multiple choice questions, arrange procedural steps, fill in missing words, write imperative sentence, and perform speaking activity. The purpose is not only to evaluate learning, but also to provide continuous opportunity for practice. Each exercise is directly connected to the learning objective introduced at the beginning of the chapter. Yes. Nah. Okay. Yep. Nah. Okay. Yeah. This is okay. Okay, next. Okay, next is ICT integration and project. Okay. The final instruction section introduces ICT integration and the project assignment. Students can scan the QR codes to access word wall, yeah, and Quizlet for addition vocabulary practice outside the classroom. Yes, this word wall and this word wall and this is Quizlet. The chapter also concludes with a project in which students work collaboratively to create either a Canva poster or a CapCut video explaining how to play traditional games. I selected this project because they require students to integrate vocabulary, grammar, speaking, creativity, and digital literacy into one authentic product. Rather than simply completing written exercise, students demonstrate their understanding by producing something meaningful. Okay, next is self-reflection. Yeah. Self-reflection. The last learning page contains the self-reflection activity. Students evaluate their own learning by checking whether they have achieved each learning goal. This reflection encourages students to become more aware of their own progress and help teachers identify areas that may require additional support. In my opinion, self-reflection is an important component because successful learning is not only measured by test scores, but also by students' awareness of their own development. And next is references. The final page contains the references used in developing this lesson unit, okay? The references include curriculum document, English language teaching books, journal articles, and digital learning platform that support the development of the instructional materials. All references are presented using APA 7th edition. To conclude, this lesson unit was developed as the practical implementation of the lesson plan that I presented earlier. Every section is carefully connected with the learning objective, classroom activities, worksheet, ICT integration, and assessment described in the lesson plan. Through this integration, students are expected not only to learn English concept, but also to communicate actively, collaborate with others, and create meaningful learning product. Overall, I designed both the lesson plan on the lesson unit to provide a student-centered, communicative, and project-based learning experience that is engaging, conceptual, and appropriate for sixth grade elementary school students. Yeah. Thank you very much for your attention. I will be happy to receive any questions, suggestion, or feedback. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.